Welcome to this Faroes News Report.
Hello. Yes, we've gathered quite a few sources today. We've got material from vp.fo, redevik.fo, even some broader context from news.ku.dk and nyheter.tv2.dk out of Denmark.
And our goal here, just to be clear for you listening, is to really lay out the facts and the arguments as presented in these sources. We're not here to analyze or speculate.
Exactly. Just conveying the content. We've structured it logically for you.
Yeah.
We'll start with the news reports, then move into the opinion and commentary pieces.
Okay, so headlines for the news report section. First up, a day of remembrance for seafarers lost.
Then the consequences of reduced foreign income tax deduction.
Followed by a summary of the Faroes Work Environment Conference 2025.
And then healthcare cost payment plan introduced.
We'll also look at the Runavik municipal budget and financial plan for 2026.
And finally, for a wider view, Ukrainian men seek refuge in Denmark.
Right. And after the news, we get into the opinion and commentary section. This covers Veltan's plea about Faroes vegetable production.
The big one, the Faroe Islands subsea tunnel debate, focusing on Suðuroy to Suðuroy.
Which leads into the political fallout, specifically mentioning Suðuroy Tunnel and political strife in Suðuroy, and Tjóðveldi being divided.
We'll also touch on the Faroe Islands tourism paradox, that tension between growth and nature.
And lastly, a critique of the proposed sterilization slogan, the sterilization law.
So, quite a bit to cover.
Definitely. Let's start then with that first news item, a day of remembrance for seafarers lost. This focuses on the Lugmar speech on All Saints' Day.
Yes, Allahelganadag. It's a really significant day, naturally, for a nation so tied to the sea. This speech is always about remembering those lost, but also about giving thanks.
And this year, the Lugmar really grounded it in history, didn't he? He brought up that terrible tragedy in Hester.
April 1st, 1919. It's still such a vivid event in the collective memory. 11 men lost on a single day. Imagine the impact on such a small community.
The details are stark. 3 boats went out.
Right, 2 6-man boats and 1 4-man boat. And the conditions just turned catastrophic. A sudden storm, strong currents.
It wasn't just the loss itself, but the drawn-out horror of it. Days of waiting and uncertainty.
Exactly. And the Lugmar connected this past trauma to something current, culturally speaking. He mentioned the play Uphav.
Ah, yes. But Gunva Zachariasen, but based on her own family history, right?
Mm-hmm. And what's interesting is how the play, and thus the Lugmar's reference, shifts the focus. It's not just about the men who drowned.
It's about the women, the children left behind, the resilience.
Precisely. Strength found in sorrow, the continuation of life. It makes the remembrance about more than just grief. It's about, well, enduring.
But it wasn't only historical loss. The speech had to acknowledge recent events, too.
Yes, sadly. Since the previous All Saints' Day, 1 Faroes seafarer was lost. Hergar Torbjarnarsson Hansen.
34 years old, from Lervik.
And the circumstances were an accident aboard the Gleiversnes on January 2nd, 2025. But notably, the vessel was docked in Hirtshals at the time.
So, not lost at sea in the traditional sense, but still a loss within the profession, a reminder of the dangers even in port.
Absolutely. And the Lugmar concluded by offering condolences formally on behalf of the government and the whole nation, linking past and present loss.
Okay, let's shift quite dramatically now to economics. Item 2, consequences of reduced foreign income tax deduction. This is about the Utenlandsfradraturen.
Right. This comes from a specific written answer from the finance minister, Ruth Vang. It was dated October 31st, 2025, responding to a parliamentary question from Beinir Johannesson.
And the core question was about the impact of reducing that deduction. Did it cause people to leave? That was the fear, wasn't it?
That was definitely the concern raised by critics. So the minister provided some data comparing 2023 and 2024. We need to be careful with the categories here.
Okay, so there's 25A income?
Yes, that's income from fishing abroad. Includes both Faroes and foreign operations. But for this deduction, it's really about the foreign fishing income.
And then 25B?
That's other foreign income not fishing. And also excluding income under the DIS or FAS ship registers. So more general work abroad.
Okay, so what did the comparison show?
Well, it's a bit mixed. The total number of people with any kind of foreign income was actually slightly down in 2024 compared to 2023.
Oh, interesting. So fewer people overall claiming it.
But, and this is the key point, the minister likely focused on the total amount of Section 25B income, that non-fishing foreign income, was actually higher in 2024.
Higher. So even with fewer people, the total income reported in that category went up.
Exactly. Which, could suggest the reduction didn't scare off the highest earners in that group, Or perhaps the income itself just grew for other reasons.
But there was a catch, wasn't there? A caveat in the data.
Yes, a fairly significant one. The minister pointed out that the Section 25B figures lump together income that gets a deduction and income that gets an exemption. They couldn't separate them easily.
Ah, so calculating the precise tax impact of the deduction change is tricky. You can see behavior changes maybe, but not the exact revenue effect.
Right. The data is indicative, but not conclusive on the money side.
And just for context, what kind of scale are we talking about here? Total salaries in the Faroes.
In 2024, overall salary income was nearly 13 billion Danish kroner, spread across about 30,000 employees. So this foreign income is a small slice, but politically sensitive.
Very much so. Now, what about the emigration question? Did the ministry look into whether people who had the deduction in 2023 actually left?
They did, and the finance minister's answer was pretty direct on this.
What was the conclusion?
Quote, "No sign of increased emigration." That was the official line.
Okay, and they backed that up.
Yes, by noting that overall salary payments and the number of employees in the Faroes have actually gone up by about 500 people in the last 2 years, and most of that growth came from people with residential ties.
So the narrative being pushed is the tax change didn't cause a brain drain, and the workforce is actually growing slightly.
That's the counter-argument being presented, yes. But crucially, the minister also added that it's really too early to draw final conclusions about the full impact of the tax reform. It needs more time.
Right, makes sense. Okay, moving on. Let's talk about the workplace. Faroes Work Environment Conference 2025 summary.
The Arbeidsum Virvisrastevna, this was a big one, held on October 31st at VHR. Over 1,000 people attended.
1,000? That's a huge turnout for the Faroes, from public and private sectors.
Yes, broad representation. And it had extra significance this year.
The anniversary.
Exactly. The 50th anniversary of the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, the Arbeids- og Bruno-eftirliti. 50 years is quite a history for that body.
So what was the main theme? Did the labor minister set a tone?
Yes, Margit Sora. She framed it around a safe and dignified work environment being, essentially, a cornerstone of the whole welfare society, not just nice to have.
And the program looked quite varied, not just technical stuff.
No, definitely broader. They had Theodore Eli Olsen, a parish priest, talking about the Protestant work ethic, and Paul Wehe, chair of the Working Environment Council, gave a talk called I Have a Dream.
Interesting title. What was that about?
About how work in the future needs to provide meaning and joy, not just income. More philosophical.
But the real core, the main focus of the conference program itself.
It was overwhelmingly the psychological work environment. That was the central thread.
A big shift from just physical safety then?
Huge. Anna Arnfrid Andreving, who's a psychologist with the administration, actually presented the new regulation concerning the psychological work environment. So it's being formalized now.
And industry was involved too, people sharing practical experience.
Oh, yes. Safety managers like Jens Hansen, who used to be at MEST, Evelyn Gard from Articon, Irdi Neshamar from EHO, they all shared insights. Plus perspectives from the union side, Harry Reinheim, and the Employers Association, Jan Sigurðsson.
So a real cross-section. Did they give out awards?
They did. The Arsens Arbeidsum Virvis Linear for 2025.
Who won?
The Employer Award went to Jan Sigurðsson, but specifically acknowledging his time as director of Articon for really pushing the work environment forward in the construction sector.
A tough sector for safety, usually. And the Worker Award.
That tied directly into the conference theme. It went jointly to SUNY Selfoss and the Union Stars Falagiae, specifically for their work focusing on the psychological work environment and well-being initiatives.
So really reinforcing that shift towards mental health and psychological safety being paramount.
Absolutely. It seems to be the major focus now.
Okay, next news item. Healthcare cost payment plan introduced. This sounds like a practical change for citizens.
Very practical. It's a new scheme from the Ministry of Health, started November 1st, 2025. Basically, if you receive subsidized medicine, you can now apply for an installment plan for your co-payment.
The aging Gjaldi, right? So instead of paying it all when you get the medicine.
Exactly. The initiative came from the health minister, Susanna Bertholdsen. It lets you spread that co-payment over 12 fixed monthly payments. It's managed through Apoteksverket, the pharmacy authority.
That could make a big difference for people on expensive long-term medication. Do we have the figures for 2025?
Yes. For someone of working age, that's 18 up to pension age, the maximum annual co-payment is 2,756 DKK. Under this new plan, that becomes a fixed monthly payment of 230 kroners a month.
Predictable. And for pensioners or early retirees?
Their maximum is lower, 1,862 DKK per year. So their fixed monthly payment is 155 DKK.
How does it work practically? Do you still pay something at the pharmacy?
No, that's the key change. You don't pay the copay at the counter. You pay your fixed monthly amount directly to Apoteksverki.
And if your actual medicine costs are different from the total you paid in installments?
It gets settled up at the end of the subsidy year. If you paid more than your actual costs, presumably you get a refund. If less, you'd owe the difference up to your maximum cap. The main goal is financial security and predictability, especially for those with high costs. Budgeting healthcare risk, essentially.
Makes sense. Okay, let's turn to municipal matters now. Runavík Municipal Budget and Financial Plan 2026.
Right, the Runavík City Council gave its first reading approval to the 2026 Financial Plan Våkenbrung 26 on October 30th. The report suggests it came after a lot of detailed prep work.
And the decisions made. Any changes to taxes or deductions?
No changes there. They kept things level with 2025. Tax rate stays at 21.5%. The child deduction, barnefordreduren, remains 10,500 DKK. And the leisure card, Spjoldri, stays at 3,000 DKK.
Keeping taxes stable is usually popular. But what about spending?
That's where the pressure shows. Operating costs are set to go up by 4%. Plus, they now have the significant new, ongoing cost of running the swimming pool complex.
Ah, yes, Bilgen. That was a huge project.
Huge. And the report stresses that recent major investments, the Furugurin Road, the new pier at Glevrar, and that swimming hall, have really strained the budget. Their debt is getting close to the legal limit.
How close?
The report puts the current debt level at approximately 86% of the debt ceiling. That doesn't leave much room for maneuver.
Especially considering the swimming hall funding situation.
Exactly. The report highlights that the hall was entirely funded by the municipality, no central government support. And their attempt to reclaim about 10 million DKK in VAT from the government failed.
10 million is a big hole when you're already near your debt limit. So what's the strategy for 2026?
Austerity, basically. The council agreed they need to, quote, minka, sigil from Regina, reduce the sail area, pull back. This belt tightening is planned for 2026 and possibly 2027 too.
How are they planning to achieve that?
The big target for 2026 is absolutely no new borrowing.
Yep.
And they aim to actually reduce the municipal debt by 26 million DKK.
26 million reduction. That's ambitious without new borrowing. How do the numbers stack up? Revenue forecast.
Total revenue is budgeted at 311.9 million DKK. Most of that, 257.9 million, is expected from personal and corporate taxes. Another 54 million from pension tax.
Are those revenue estimates solid?
They're described as conservative, especially the corporate tax estimate. Because of the volatility seen in the salmon farming industry during 2025, they're not banking on a boom there.
Okay. And total expenditure?
It matches revenue exactly. 311.9 million DKK. But that figure includes the planned 26 million DKK surplus, AVLOP, needed to hit that debt reduction target.
So actual spending on services and operations is lower. Where does the money go?
Operating costs total 238 million DKK. The biggest chunks are social affairs at nearly 83.5 million and children-youth services costing almost 55 million. Core welfare state functions.
Even with the focus on debt reduction, are there any new investments planned?
Yes, they still have an investment budget of 34.9 million DKK. It seems focused on necessary groundwork and ongoing projects.
Which as?
Things like preparing land for a new daycare, 0.8 million, planning for future school construction, 2 million, continuing work on the Faroe Road, 2 million, and developing the harbor area at Skala, 4 million. Necessary stuff, but not extravagant new builds.
So the picture for Runavík is manage the debt from past big projects, rely on conservative income estimates, cut back where possible, but keep essential services and groundwork ticking over. A balancing act.
Very much so. High debt means difficult choices.
Okay, our final news report takes us outside the Faroes to Denmark for broader context. Ukrainian men seek refuge in Denmark.
Yes, this report from Danish media highlights a really noticeable recent trend. Denmark is seeing a sharp increase in residency applications from Ukrainian refugees, and specifically, it's young men.
How sharp an increase?
Well, up until August, they were getting maybe 600 to 1,000 applications a month. But in September and October, that figure jumped to nearly 2,000 per month, almost double.
Is there a clear reason for this sudden surge?
Yes, The source points directly to a policy change in Ukraine itself in late August. Ukraine eased exit restrictions for men aged 18 to 22.
And that age group is below the current mobilization age in Ukraine.
Exactly. Mobilization starts at 25, so these younger men were suddenly allowed to leave.
And the numbers reflect that specific group.
Clearly, applications from just that 18 to 22 age bracket went from only 45 in August to 668 in September. A massive jump, directly linked to that policy window.
The report included a personal story.
Yes, from a 21-year-old named Mikhailo Hansa, who arrived in Holstebro. His reasons were straightforward. Seeking safety to, in his words, build his future, study, work, and pay tax. He talked about needing to live away from missile attacks.
And researchers confirmed this motivation.
Yes, Sophie Rose, a postdoc studying war, confirmed this wave is marked. It's driven by escaping the war, sometimes reuniting with family already in Denmark, but also, significantly, by men approaching 23 who fear that exit window might close soon. They worry the ban might extend to their age group.
Understandable. But this sudden influx must be causing issues for Danish municipalities.
Huge issues, primarily housing. It's a recurring theme across the Nordics. But this surge is really straining things.
What are the municipalities saying? Copenhagen, for example.
Jens Christian Lydtgen, the relevant mayor there, so they're getting about 50 refugees a week now, mostly men, and he expects their housing capacity to just run out before Christmas.
Is finding work the problem?
Apparently not. Lydtgen described finding work as ret nemt, quite easy. The bottleneck is affordable housing. They're resorting to hotels, which he called costly and unsustainable.
And it's similar elsewhere. Holstebro, Albertslund.
Yes. Søren Landkildehus in Holstebro mentioned struggling to find affordable public housing, using very alternative ways, and temporary cheaper options not ideal.
And Albertslund. The KL chairman, Steen Christensen, raised another point, too.
Right. He noted the housing shortage there, too, with about 30 Ukrainians arriving monthly. But he also stressed the psychological aspect. Many arrive with significant distress. He used the phrase Socio-Political, wounds on the soul.
Implying a need for more than just housing.
Exactly. Requiring substantial social and psychotherapeutic support alongside the basic logistics.
How has the Danish government responded?
The minister, Rasmus Stoklund, acknowledged the municipality's efforts. He said the government had provided flexible frameworks, but they're now watching closely to see if this high intake level is a temporary spike or potentially a new normal.
A significant challenge with deep human dimensions. Okay, that concludes the news reports section.
Yes, quite a range of updates there, from remembrance to finance to social services and regional migration.
Now let's transition into the opinion and commentary segments. These often reflect the debates swirling around the news. First up, Veltan's plea. Save Faroes vegetable production.
This is a very direct action. Veltan, the group of vegetable producers on Suðuroy, didn't just write a letter. They showed up at the Lusting Finance Committee hearing, which was actually about VAT exemption for potatoes and vegetables.
And they brought props.
7 bags of fresh, locally grown produce. Carrots, potatoes, lettuce, the works.
And a letter. What was the message in the letter?
It started as a thank you, acknowledging past political support, especially funding via Bunagurstovan, which they said directly led to local shops successfully selling Faroes strawberries, onions, cabbage, potatoes. Proof of concept, essentially.
But that wasn't the main point, was it?
No, the main point was a warning. A direct intervention into the Suðuroy Tunnel debate. They specifically targeted the proposed route, Farleið 1A, which is up for review.
And their claim about Route 1A.
Stark. They claim it runs directly through the heart of all Faroes vegetable production on Suðuroy. Their words were strong. Choosing this route will destroy everything we have built up together in recent years.
So they're framing the tunnel route choice as an existential threat to local food production.
Absolutely. And they urge the committee to look seriously at an alternative route, one that bypasses Sandur village more carefully and minimizes the impact on Sandoy's nature and culture. It connects infrastructure directly to agriculture and heritage.
Which leads us neatly into the wider context. Suðuroy Tunnel debate, political strife and argument for shorter route. This has clearly become a political hot potato.
Immensely so. We saw commentary from Brender Sandoy, who's a former MP for Sandoy. He weighed in, arguing that the current political push for a specific longer tunnel route actually goes against a much older cross-party agreement from around 2013 or 2014.
An older agreement. What was his point?
He claims the current Sandoy tunnel, the one already built, was positioned exactly where it is based on recommendations from Landsverk back in. And the specific reason for that positioning
Was to enable the shortest possible future connection south.
exactly to ensure the shortest, straightest possible route down towards Suðuroy and Skúvoy. He's saying the very design of the existing tunnel presupposes the shorter southern link.
So he sees the current proposal for a longer route as contradicting that original plan.
Yes. He rejects the longer alternative, even if the cost estimates are similar. His reasoning is practical. Why add 5 kilometers to the journey from Suðuroy to the capital? That's significant for daily travel and transport. Plus, he argues it creates more obstacles.
And he's questioning the justification.
He is. He pointed out that geological surveys show both routes are feasible. So he asked, why choose the longer one? He demanded the political arguments for the longer route be made public, hinting it might not be based on pure efficiency.
This disagreement seems to be causing real problems within at least one party.
Oh, definitely. The local Tjóðveldi branch on Sandoy, the Sandoy Tjóðveldisfélag, made a dramatic threat.
What was that?
They threatened to resign en masse and leave the Tjóðveldi party entirely if the party leadership stuck with supporting this controversial tunnel route, Solution 1A.
A threat to leave the party, that's serious. How did the party leadership react? This ties into the next commentary piece. Tjóðveldi divided on tunnel solution.
The party chairperson, Siri Stenberg, had to respond publicly. She acknowledged that, well, basically, consensus on Solution 1A just doesn't exist within the party.
She admitted the division openly.
Yes, and she went further, suggesting that because of this internal disagreement and the strength of the opposition, the proposed solution might actually have to be changed.
So the political pressure from Sandoy and potentially the threat from the local branch might force a rethink of the entire tunnel plan.
It certainly seems possible. The political cost of sticking with Route 1A might be becoming too high for Tjóðveldi, perhaps even risking wider coalition stability. It's a major internal conflict playing out publicly.
Okay, let's change tack slightly, but stick with major Faroes themes. Faroe Islands, tourism paradox. Growth versus nature.
Right, this stems from PhD research by Hanna Birkeland Nielsen at the University of Copenhagen. Tourism is a huge economic engine, over $1 billion DKK a year now.
An undeniable success story on the surface. But the research highlights a paradox.
Yes, a fundamental one. It comes from the branding, the very successful campaign marketing the Faroes as Europe's best-kept secret, focusing on those rugged, pristine landscapes.
What's the paradox there?
Nielsen argues that the more successful that branding is, the more tourists it attracts. And the more tourists you have, the harder it is to actually deliver that untouched secret experience. The sheer numbers put pressure on the very thing being advertised in the vulnerable nature.
The research mentions Saxon as a specific example.
Yes, Saxon. Tiny place, just 13 inhabitants, but it's become incredibly famous on platforms like Instagram, a visual icon.
And the locals weren't happy?
In 2023, things apparently boiled over. Problems like tourists wandering everywhere, trampling the grass needed for sheep. The locals reacted quite strongly.
Ow!
With, as the report put it, sharply worded English signs. Trying to control behavior, keep people off sensitive land, sometimes trying to deter visitors altogether. Nielsen uses this to show how tourism becomes both desired for the income and unwanted for the impact.
Has the situation in Saxon changed since then?
Apparently, yes. The research notes the residents have shifted strategy somewhat. Instead of just confrontation, they're trying to reframe the village as a heritage site, hoping to manage expectations and behavior that way.
The paradox affects people working in tourism, too.
Absolutely. Nielsen studied a tour guide during her fieldwork who was, interestingly, very critical of the industry's effects. This guide would actively reprimand tourists who didn't stick to paths.
So profiting from tourism, but also policing its impact.
Exactly. Nielsen called it a paradoxical double role, making a living from the very thing that's causing concern. Her conclusion seemed to be that while the economic benefits are undeniable, especially for a place seeking autonomy, unchecked growth risks destroying the unique natural appeal and causing serious social friction.
Has there been any official response to these kinds of pressures?
Yes, a couple of things mentioned. In 2024, the Legging passed a law aiming to give local communities more influence over development in their areas, an attempt to empower locals.
And visit Faroe Islands.
They launched a campaign actively promoting self-drive car rentals. The idea is to encourage people to spread out, explore beyond just the famous honeypots like Saxon, and hopefully reduce the pressure on those few overloaded sites.
A complex balancing act between economic necessity and preserving the asset itself.
Okay, our final piece of commentary is on a very different and sensitive topic, critique of the sterilization law. Sterilization slogan. Yes, this comes from MGD, which is the main organization representing disabled persons in the Faroes. They issued a commentary on October 31st about a proposed Lukting bill dealing with sterilization.
In their position.
They have very serious concerns. Their core argument is that the proposed law includes provisions that, in their view, allow and even encourage discrimination based on disability or disorder.
What specific parts of the bill are they pointing to?
They highlight Section 4. It explicitly lists conditions that could potentially be grounds for sterilization decisions. The list includes things like psychological illness, sálarsjúku, mental disorder, sálarlegt orðavarf, what's termed weak giftedness, veikari gafufori, gross personality deviation, groflindisfravik, or serious physical illness, alvarsliga gamlidasjúku.
That's a broad list of conditions.
Very broad. And MBGD also notes the law refers to situations involving family history, where there's deemed a risk of severe physical or mental illness in potential offspring. They argue the implication here is that preventing births in such cases is seen as desirable.
What term did MBGD use for this concern?
They considered it extremely serious and argued it could allow for, or be interpreted as encouraging, eugenics. The term used was erupted and disability-based sterilization.
And they connected this to international standards.
Yes, they explicitly stated this potentially conflicts with international obligations, citing the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities and the European Convention on Human Rights. Strong words.
What about the issue of consent for individuals with disabilities?
That's another major point of criticism. The bill mentions the possibility of supportive conversations, for people with disabilities who might request sterilization themselves. But MGD says the proposal is completely inadequate in detailing how these conversations would actually work.
They're questioning if true, informed consent can be guaranteed.
Exactly. How do you ensure someone, perhaps with significant cognitive impairments, even with support and adjustments, can fully grasp the implications and make such a profound, irreversible decision autonomously? The clarity around consent is questioned.
So what is MBGD's core demand or principle here?
It boils down to self-determination. Disabled persons should be supported to make their own decisions, not have decisions made for them by the state or others.
And their broader societal argument.
They argue the focus is wrong. Instead of discussing sterilization, society should be focusing on making the necessary adjustments, removing barriers, providing support so that disability itself doesn't become a reason why raising children seems impossible. Make society accessible, they argue, and the question of sterilization as a solution might become unnecessary.
Does the proposed law outline who would make these decisions?
Yes. It mandates that the relevant minister appoints a council, a samra, which would be the body responsible for making decisions regarding sterilization requests, a centralized decision-making council.
A very sensitive piece of proposed legislation, drawing significant critique on human rights grounds.
Absolutely. It touches on fundamental issues of autonomy, discrimination, and the state's role versus individual rights.
We've certainly covered a lot of ground today, from remembrance at sea to the nuts and bolts of tax policy and municipal budgets.
Right through to these really significant debates about infrastructure choices, the future of tourism, and fundamental social policy concerning disability rights.
The threads connecting these seem to be about managing change, balancing development with tradition, and navigating scarce resources, whether that's money in Runavik, land in Sandoy, or capacity in the Danish refugee system. These are debates you'll want to keep an eye on.
Indeed. The outcomes of the tunnel debate, the tourism strategy, and laws like the sterilization slogan will say a lot about the future direction the Faroes chooses to take. It's that constant tension between progress and preservation, ambition and sustainability.
Like and subscribe to PalsFundamentals for more content like this. Sources linked below.